Oh, I'm live. This is my first time going live only through YouTube. Welcome to my Friday Night Live. I'm Annie Temple, and tonight I'm talking about shame. And it's really funny because I just talked about this in a webinar that I did on Monday. I talked about a lot of different subjects, but shame was one of them. And there was so much interest in it, actually, that I am thinking of doing a full webinar just on shame for the Imperfectly You community, which is super exciting. But I thought I would share with you a little bit about shame and start with a story about when I became an exotic dancer. And I had been a student in women's studies and going to different, kinds of feminist types events and surrounding myself with a lot of feminists uh, before I became a stripper. And I was going to university in Kelowna, where I grew up, taking women's studies, and they showed a film. My instructor in my first year of university showed a film called Not a Love Story. And it's basically a film that follows an exotic dancer into the strip clubs and follows her life, and it basically is slanted to show how degrading her work is and how exploited she is. So when you watch the film, even though she seems like a very self-possessed, confident, funny, not victimized woman uh, in the film, it's still very slanted to depict her as this person that is degraded, exploited, and at the mercy of a bunch of pervy men and people making money off of her body and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so they showed this film in university, my first year of university, and some of the students in the class, the women, had to actually leave the class because they were so sick to their stomach from the film. And others were like openly crying. And it was just very kind of disgusting film, okay? That made you, the film really makes you hate men and think of sex and the sex industry as something really dirty. And it's just very awful, negative film about the adult entertainment industry. And that's what I thought. I believed it. I believed that that's what the adult entertainment industry is about. And so a couple years later, when I became an exotic dancer, I did it out of financial need. And I thought to myself that what I was doing was wrong. I thought it was degrading to women, and I thought that I should hate all of my customers because they're just a bunch of pervy men that are taking advantage of women. And this is what I'd been taught to believe. But even though I knew that's what I was supposed to believe, it wasn't really what I believed, because I loved most of my customers, and most of them were really cool and funny and interesting and respectful. And I loved I loved dancing, and I didn't feel exploited or degraded. And I actually had more control and more respect in that job than I did in any other uh, job that I ever had. So it was actually quite empowering for me. And uh, so even though there was this disconnect, I still thought that I was supposed to feel ashamed and I was supposed to dislike my customers. And it wasn't until I went back to university And I took a break from dancing and went back to university, hoping that my mother would love me again. And I took women's studies again. And this time I was the silent stripper. That's how I remember myself, the silent stripper in the women's studies class, listening to the women around me be very negative about people who work in the adult entertainment industry, and saying that anyone who works in the sex industry are perpetuators of rape culture and all these kinds of insults and whatnot. And so I was sitting there thinking, I am that woman that they're all talking about with contempt and disgust. And I hadn't found my voice yet and didn't feel confident to stand up for myself. And I felt like I should feel ashamed based on everything that I had learned. And it wasn't until I wrote a paper for my professor about my experience of feeling empowered in the adult entertainment industry that my teacher's assistant pulled me aside and helped me find literature to support my beliefs and my arguments. And that was so amazing because not only did she not judge me and put me down for being a dancer, but she helped me find my way to other powerful voices in the adult entertainment industry. So that was really meaningful. And yeah, I started reading a book called Whores and Other Feminists. And that book made me realize that all of the beliefs that had made me feel ashamed about myself as an exotic dancer were all beliefs that were placed upon me by feminism and society, and that they were actually theories, not facts. And I didn't have to believe those things. So that was very empowering for me. That was how I was able to dismantle and deconstruct the shame that I had. And what they call that in feminism, that kind of shame, is internalized oppression. It's when you oppress yourself based on how other people are oppressing you. So other people were saying that I should be ashamed and that I was a bad person and perpetuating rape culture, etc. And so therefore I felt like I was ashamed because I was this bad person that society said that I was. So having the opportunity to read other people's opinions, ideas, theories, and recognizing that I wasn't the only person who worked in the adult entertainment industry that actually found empowerment in it. That was so eye-opening for me because it made me learn that when I feel ashamed because of what other people believe or what other people's beliefs have been imposed upon me, that that's actually not my belief and I don't have to take it on. I don't have to. It's not a fact and I don't have to take on that belief. And so I was able to shed that shame. It was extremely empowering for me. And I wanted to tell you that story because that story is specifically a story about shame that I've been through. But there really are two kinds of shame, and those two kinds of shame are: one, shame for our own actions, and that's usually in the form of like remorse or regret for something that we've done. And that kind of shame is it's really hard to get over. Like it makes you feel really sick in the stomach, and you every time you think of it, you hate yourself. It's the kind of thing you won't tell anyone. You won't tell anyone because you just feel so ashamed about it. And there's a few different things I can tell you about this. So you you can look at it in some different ways. So one way you can look at it as, we all make mistakes. There's no first mistakes. It might be the first time you made that mistake, but others have made the same mistake countless times before you. And we've been making mistakes since humanity began. And so if you think about it, everything that we do is just a human mistake made as part of being part of the human condition. So it's not something you own. You didn't invent the mistake. Tantra says that there are no mistakes, only God experiencing all the possibilities of existence through us. And so we only believe they are mistakes because we put judgments on them. Instead of judging our mistakes and regretting them as bad things that we need to be ashamed of, we should try to see them as natural consequences of being divine and having all of the possibilities of existence available to us, including things that we label as bad. Stoicism teaches that mistakes are to be learned from. And Marcus Aurelius said that we should never judge others. We should only judge ourselves for judging others, thereby using our self-reproach to become better at accepting things and people without judgment. And I don't know if I paraphrased that very well, but the purpose of mistakes is to learn from them. And the shame we feel when we feel bad for something that we've done is actually an opportunity for us to not make that mistake again. And if we are to judge the mistakes or regrets of our lives, then let's get to the heart of the matter. And the heart of the matter is whether we are good people or not. Am I a good person or not? And if not, then this is where we need to start from shame, is by becoming better than what we are and what makes us feel bad about who we are. So I always suggest just promise to forgive yourself if you do better, and then do better. And if you have shame around actions that deliberately or inadvertently hurt someone, consider that the painful event was necessary for that person's personal journey. And like, this is really hard because it almost feels like you're not taking accountability for your own actions when you say to yourself, you know, maybe this person that I did this to was supposed to go through this. Right? But it's not like that. The shame you feel, you feel bad for doing it, you learn from it, but you have to also accept it and face it. And part of accepting it is accepting that the person that you hurt, that's part of their journey. That's part of their journey, and being able to let go of the responsibility of their journey, because all you can do once you've already hurt them is apologize, try to make up for it. But beyond that, there's nothing you can do because you can't go back in time and change it. So you really just have to accept that that's actually a part of their journey. And that actually brings me to something I learned in the recovery community, which is there's something called an amends, where you apologize to the people you hurt, accepting that they may not forgive you. And the AA program also recommends not making a direct amends if it's possible that it might cause the person more pain, or if it could cause a danger to you or them in some way. So in that case, they suggest that you do what's called a living amends, which means you just start doing good for people in general, or pick someone or a group or a community like the recovery community to serve. And through your service and through your being a person that helps others, you can help to make a living amends for the times where you've harmed others. So these are some of the ways that you can look at it. So really, when it comes down to it, to get through that kind of shame, the shame of what we've done, shame for our actions, remorse or regret, is to learn from it and try to never do it again. Forgive yourself because you're human and humans make mistakes, and give yourself the same grace that you would give to your child or your best friend if they make a mistake. And then release judgment. Stop beating yourself up for it, and try to, like, like before, give yourself some grace because you deserve it just as much as anyone deserves it. And so then we're going to get into shame imposed by others, which is what I was talking about at the beginning when I told the story of when I used to be ashamed of being an adult entertainer. And this is another word for this kind of shame is internalized oppression. So it's oppression or oppressive kind of way of thinking that's pushed on us. So society thinks uh, a person shouldn't be a stripper or shouldn't do this or shouldn't do that or whatever it is. And depending on what our society is like at the time, what era we're living in or what kind of community we're living in, uh, all of those messages about how we should or should not be can be very different, but they are still coming from outside of us. And when they're pushed on us, that's shame that's imposed on us, and it can be called internalized oppression. And it can manifest as things like sexual shame, for instance, feeling ashamed of your sexual desires or your sexual orientation, or for hiring sex workers, or having kinky kinds of uh, things that turn you on. There's so many ways that this kind of shame can manifest in sex and sexual shame, because society is so uptight about sex. It can also manifest as like career shame. So like when I was ashamed of being an exotic dancer, or say someone works for McDonald's or a place that they're ashamed of working there because people judge that. You know what I mean? So body shame. So you don't fit the standards of society. Maybe you have a poop bag like me, an ostomy, or maybe you have scars, or you're overweight, or you're underweight, or you're super tall, or you're super short, or you have no boobs, or lopsided boobs, or whatever it is that makes you have body shame. So really an internalized oppression that's put on us by society and the beliefs that we have been led to believe by the people around us. Not just society, it could be like other individuals, or it can be certain communities, and it's put on us. And this is often very unconscious. We don't even realize usually that we have that shame necessarily, unless we're in a situation where we're acting out that behavior, and then we're ashamed. Or like, for instance, if someone uh, gets caught up in a sexual situation, and it's really amazing and wonderful right up until it's over, and then it's shameful, and they just feel horrible and beat themselves up. So and that's very unconscious. Why do I feel so bad now? Because society does send mixed messages. Like your girlfriends could be telling you, oh, whatever, go have fun, girl. Meanwhile, you were raised being told that sex outside of marriage is, evil and a sin. So there's so many things that could be going on, and it could be confusing and mess us up. So when it comes to shame that's imposed on us, there's two parts to deconstructing that. And the first part is to question the source. And the source, for instance, in the case of me feeling ashamed of being an exotic dancer, for me, the source was feminism and women's studies classes and other women in the feminist movement making me like, even just the literature, what they were teaching in the schools, and just the kind of dominant thought of the day at the time was that anyone who worked in adult entertainment is degraded, exploited, they should be ashamed. Not only are they victims, but they're also perpetuators of rape culture. So they're also predators themselves, if you think about it. It was very confusing, but the message was clear that I was wrong, bad, didn't fit into society, shouldn't be accepted in society. No man should want to date me. No man should want me to be their girlfriend. No child should want me to be their mother. Like, I am just, not worthy. And that was something I had internalized. So that's internalized shame. So when I questioned the source, and the source for me was feminism, essentially, I realized that the source was mostly, if not all, women who had never been sex workers, never worked in the adult entertainment industry. So I questioned the source and I said, wait, this is not a credible source. This source that's been telling me how bad and wrong I am, it's not a credible source. And actually, other people who work in this industry are a better source. And so going to the literature, I found lots of literature that supported both the hard aspects of working in the adult entertainment industry, but also the wonderful and empowering aspects. And that was a lot more credible because it was real. It wasn't just it's all bad, and it wasn't just it's all good. It was like, there's some good and bad in this industry, and we're just looking at it the wrong way. And so that was a huge empowering way for me to deconstruct that shame. And the next part was to reframe the narrative. So if you're internalizing shame, question the source, and then reframe the narrative. So in the case of, for instance, a McDonald's employee who feels ashamed because I work at McDonald's. Well, actually, they're a very good restaurant chain that have trained a lot of people who have gone on to be very successful in the restaurant industry. And so working for McDonald's, you're actually good evening, and thank you for the messages. You have always the most positive outlook. Thank you. Yeah, so you could reframe the narrative and feel like, you know what? I'm training to possibly be in the future like an amazing uh, restaurateur, whatever the word is. And instead of being ashamed of working at McDonald's. And the same with the adult entertainment industry. I can feel like, actually, I'm proud of the impact that I have on people, the customers and clients that I come across in the adult entertainment industry. And I'm proud of the show that I put on as an exotic dancer, or whatever it is that we do. We can change that. We can reframe that narrative to be proud of what we're bringing to this world and to the people that we impact in our work. So reframing the narrative is really important because that helps you to stop letting your mind go that shit gutter, hate yourself direction, and go in a more positive, uplifting direction. Yes, amen. So those are the different kinds of shame. And I thought I would share one more thing, which I think is very cool, because sexual shame and shame around sex is so strong and so predominant. And I love Tantra because Tantra is one of the few spiritual paths that does not devalue the body and does not devalue sex or make it bad or sinful or evil. It's actually a path to enlightenment. So I wanted to talk about the tantric layers of self during sex. And so Tantra teaches that our sensual experiences are another way that God experiences itself through us. In fact, sensual pleasure is one of the most profound ways that God can experience itself through us, and we can experience our divinity. I love the beauty in women and eat at McDonald's a lot. Good things. Thank you. So, through sensual touch, we can experience ourselves on every level of existence. And Tantra suggests that there are 6 layers of self. And so, I'm going to include sexual examples that I created to help us identify the layers of self that we experience during tantric sex. And so the material self would be, I'm making love on this beautiful bed, wearing sexy lingerie and using high quality accessories. And then the physical body would be like, I am experiencing the incredible sensations of touch. And the heart mind energy body would be, I'm aroused beyond imagination. This is the layer of thoughts and feelings, and it's the layer that we identify with the most. And then the layer of the life force. That's the layer that says, I feel ecstatically energized. And the transcendent void. And this is, I always imagine this is the part, like when you're caught up so in the sensation that you're just almost drifting, like you're almost not even in this world. And it happens often after climax as well, where you're like, I'm drifting in the transcendent void, neither here nor there nor anywhere, on a cloud of sensation. And then the power of awareness, which is the sixth layer of self, which is, I am divine consciousness on every level of my being during these glorious moments of passion and connection. So these layers are in effect at all times and in every situation, not just the sexual ones. But however, tantric sex enables us to experience all our layers really easily. It's easier than a lot of other ways because it is a physical, emotional, and spiritual experience. And whereas most spiritual practices denigrate sex, if they acknowledge it at all, most spiritual practices feed into sexual shame, and Tantra is one of the few, if not the only, spiritual path that can actually help you heal your sexual shame. So I wanted to finish on that because I thought it was really fascinating and something that when I learned it, I just was like, this is so cool. And it would be fun to like take different experiences in our lives and then figure out, all the layers of yourself that are experiencing those different experiences in life. But anyway, going way down the rabbit hole now. So I hope if you suffer from any kind of shame issues that this live stream helps you out and you can go back and watch it again. It'll still be here on my YouTube, and I'll also be posting it on my Patreon, and you can watch it there for free, patreon.com/Annie Temple. Thank you for joining me. Happy Friday, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And thanks for commenting.